Join the glorious evolution. Inferior constructs. They are obsolete. Relinquish the flesh. Destroy, then improve.
This video is brought to you by Opera GX, a browser dedicated to gamers. GX lets you control and limit the network bandwidth, CPU and RAM usage, which means that you can play games and also have things running in the background such as music without hurting your gaming performance. Whereas other browsers like Google Chrome would take up a lot of your RAM, GX lets you limit it to what you choose so you can have a great gaming experience while playing something in the background. The design by Opera GX is inspired by gaming, which features a dark and sleek core with colorful accents that you can customize to your liking with special themes, wallpapers and colors. GX Corner lets you stay up to date with free games, the best deals, the newest releases and breaking game news all in one easily accessible place. GX also has a mobile version, GX Mobile, that's a perfect companion to the desktop as they can be connected. Download link is in the description, so please check it out, and Opera GX, thank you for sponsoring this video. Alright guys, so we are playing Viktor today. It's a control mage with a super strong late game and absolutely insane team fighting potential. So he kinda has everything that you need from a mid laner. His only problem though is getting through the early game, because it is pretty weak and he doesn't really have that much pressure. But you can actually have a lot of pressure if you're using this new room page. So you're going to use Summonary as your keystone, then use Scourge in the sorcery tree, and then you want to have Time Warp Tonic as well as the biscuits. If you're using this combination guys, you're going to have so much sustain in the early game and you're also going to have some extra poke damage. So this can really help you get through those really difficult matchups, and it can also help you dominate the easier lanes. Even though his laning phase is weak guys, his level 1 is really strong and his level 2 as well. So level 1 you have that Q, right? So it gives you a shield and it also allows you to deal damage, so it makes your trading really good. And then you also have that laser level 2, so you have really strong first couple of levels, but after that he kind of falls off a bit until you get your items and the evolutions. So with this setup you want to play aggressive. You don't have to use Ignite. I like to use Ignite if I think that I might be able to get kills, but otherwise you can also use Exhaust or Teleport. That's totally preference. But I like to use Ignite or Teleport depending on the matchup. So since we're playing against a Malzahar, I'm really trying to poke him down a lot because we do not want him to get that passive shield up. So constantly go for those short trades. The good thing about Aerie is the fact that you don't have to commit to a trade in order to proc it. Like, you just need to damage the enemy champion and then it's going to proc as well. Compared to something like Electrocute where you really have to commit in order to get that extra damage off. So Aerie has really good synergy, and the reason to use it is because Viktor doesn't really have a good keystone. He had the Phase Rush, but they nerfed it, so it's not really that strong anymore. But you still have a few options, like you can still use the Phase Rush, you can also use the Electrocute. You also have Summonary, so it's preference, but Summonary gives you a really strong early game. Now another good thing about Summonary guys is the fact that it deals magic damage, so if you need anti-healing and you're going for that Oblivion Orb, now you can also proc that Grievous Wounds for the auto attacks when you have Summonary, because it is going to proc it. So if you're landing against something like a Vladimir, then Summonary and Oblivion Orb is going to be really good. This laning phase, normally you want to play it safe, but with this setup you can really afford to go aggressive guys. What matters the most is that you still manage to farm really well, because you want to get that passive stacked up and make sure that you do not miss the cannon minions, because they give you as many stacks as an entire minion wave, so it's really important that you don't miss those. Now we have a ton of sustain with the biscuits as well as the corrupting potion, so you can afford to stay in lane for longer, and you can also go for those extended trades, but you really get to abuse that corrupting potion, so you can out sustain a lot of matchups. So normally at level 3 you don't have to put a point into W, because a lot of the time it's not that useful in the early game, so it might be better to just put a second point into your E guys, so your poke damage becomes a lot stronger and your wave clear also becomes a bit better. It's still not that good though. You still want that first take score upgrade because that's where you get the best wave clearing ability in the game, like basic ability. That's where you start becoming a bit OP. So we're playing a bit aggressive right here. That's normally something you don't like doing as Viktor. But we got that first upgrade guys, and of course that is going towards the E because that gives that extra aftershock damage after the initial E, and this is what allows you to kind of one-shot the waves. Now if you get it super early on like this guys, then of course it's not going to do that much damage, but later on as you get your items, then this ability is going to one-shot the backline minions, basically giving you access to super OP wave clear in the mid lane. So even the difficult matchups you might face, they're also going to become a lot easier from this point and onwards because you can just AFK push. So you can completely avoid the bad matchups just by AFK wave clearing, and they'll not be able to match that because most champions do not have this wave clear unless they also use the ultimate. So in this matchup, your E is going to one-shot the Voidlings, the Malzahar's Voidlings, so focus on doing that. Because if you one-shot those, then his wave clear is completely gone, and you're just gonna absolutely destroy him. You can shove him in easily, and then you can roam bot lane, roam top, or even help your jungler contesting the objectives, so you get a lot of freedom as long as you play this matchup properly. You do want to be careful when he hits level 6 though. Your ultimate guys is an ability that deals a lot of damage over time. But something that's just as important is that the first cast, as soon as you use it, it works as a disruptor, so it's going to cancel out channeling abilities. That includes Malzahar's ultimate, so if you see Malzahar using his ultimate on one of your teammates, you can just drop that ultimate and it's going to cancel it out. And that is only the initial damage though, so it will not do that if you only hit him with the text that comes afterwards. You want to make sure that the moment you use that ultimate, you want to place it right on top of him and it is going to cancel out any channeling abilities. That also counts Twisted Fate's ultimate. So this is a rune setup that I can highly recommend, especially if you play in low elos, because you will be able to pick up a lot of kills guys. Even though Viktor has a pretty weak laning phase, you can actually make it pretty strong with this setup, and you might also be able to abuse the opponent because they do not know how to play against this. Do remember that when you use your Q, you can speed up the animation. It's very important to know. It's probably the most important thing on Viktor because he's not that difficult to play guys. Like, he doesn't have that many mechanics. You just want to make sure that you know how to animation cancel the Q. So the moment you press Q, then you input a movement command and then you use that second attack. So going for a damage heavy build, and that's of course with the Tempest here. You can also go for the crown. That's something you want to do if you're playing against AD assassins. You know, like a Talon, Kian or something. Because they can one-shot you with a single combo, and that crown is going to make it impossible to kill you pretty much. So I like to go for the Lucidity boots here. They're cheap. They also give a lot of nice ability haste, and because they're cheap, it means that you'll be able to build your core items a lot faster. Just focus on farming, of course super important, so we almost have the second upgrade. And now we got it, so that's on the Q here, and that's also super important for kiting around guys. That bonus movement speed is so useful because this is what allows you to really kite people in fights. Of course, this also has some insane damage later on in the game, especially if you decide to get something like a Lich Bane that has great synergy with this item here. Then you have some absolutely insane burst damage in the later stages. Not only in the late game, but already from the mid game as soon as you can get your core items. So this is the point where summon Aerie starts becoming less effective. It doesn't really matter that much on Viktor though, because the thing is Viktor is a late game champ, so he's not reliant on getting damage from keystones. What he wants is something that can help him get through the laning phase, and Aerie actually helps a lot with that because it gives you that extra damage for the early game, so you can kind of like poke people constantly and make sure that they don't, you know, like kick you out of lane. So now that we have the 2 upgrades, we just need the last one, and that is the one that basically gives you a Ryla's passive, making your ability slow, except for that ultimate tick. So that is also the reason that you never want to buy Ryla's Crystal Scepter on Viktor, because you already have that with the Hex Core. Just focus on pushing and make sure that that E hits as many minions as possible so you can push a lot faster. Sometimes you do get trolled by the minions where they randomly decide to move when you're going to use your E, and then of course they don't end up getting one shot. That does happen sometimes, but otherwise, you know, try to hit as many minions as possible, and always keep in mind that that E is going to one shot the backline minions. So when you cannot hit the entire minion wave, just make sure that you clear out the backline minions first. But this is like one of the most satisfying basic abilities to use in the game, just because of how OP that wave clear is. It really helps you stall out in the mid game, and it also gives you some pressure, because you can just show the opponent in, they're gonna be stuck under the tower farming, and then you can move around, help your jungler contest the skull crab, the dragon, or even help looking for roam in the bottom side or top side. So you'll have a lot of freedom as soon as you have that E upgrade. We are sitting on a lot of gold here, so we could definitely go for a base, but we also saw that roam in the bottom side, so they're going for a 4-man bot side. So I want to make sure that we are punishing Malzahar for that. So we took some tower plates and then we just keep shoving in. We are playing Viktor, so we have really OP wave clear. Just gonna shove this in, guys, and then he's gonna lose a lot of farm. So because I did not base here, we got to punish the Malzahar, made him lose a lot for that roam, so if he decided to base, then he would not have lost as much. So that's why it's super important that when you see the enemy mid laner go for roam, you try to push that wave in as fast as possible, and then if you can get tower plates, then that's even better. But make sure that you punish them, because if you don't, they're gonna get away with the roam. You can see that poke damage is absolutely insane when you have the Looter's Tempest. And of course, when you start getting some AP heavy items like the Rapidon's Death Cap, it's going to become a lot better. Now, Viktor is a champion that has pretty much everything that you need from a mid laner. He has really good scaling, he has really good team fighting, he has really good zoning potential with his W and the ultimate as well. And it's also a champion that can do well into a lot of different matchups. Like, he does not have a champion that like really hard counters him. Of course, there are some difficult matchups, but there are no like super hard counters. So he kind of works similar to Orianna. Like, they're really safe picks in the mid lane, and they can also work as good blind picks for the times where you're not able to see what the enemy mid lane is going to pick. So they buffed Lich Bane a while ago, also giving it some ability haste, so that's of course a really good item on Viktor, especially because you do use your auto attacks a lot. Like your Q is going to proc it, guys, you know, when you get that auto attack in, so you get to do that a lot. That also means that you get to abuse that Lich Bane passive a lot. So that's going to help you a lot when you want to push down towers and also when you fight. Because like, if any squishy steps up to you in the later stages of the game, you're just gonna absolutely one-shot them with a Q and an E. You don't even need the ultimate. So you can just stay in the mid lane. Your goal honestly is just to AFK wave clear. and then you make sure that you farm up well. You want to have really good CS numbers because this is a scaling champion, meaning that you don't really have that much impact in the early game. So you won't always be able to find kills and such, so the only consistent way that you can get gold for yourself is by farming. And farming well is something that you can do every single game. So that's very important that you prioritize farming first, and then you can also learn how to trade properly afterwards. You don't always have to play aggressive. That's something you can start doing once you have learned to farm really well. Make sure that you have really good CS numbers. Try to stay like about like 7 CS per minute. In high elos, people tend to stay above 8 CS per minute, but 7 CS per minute and above is also pretty fine, because that means that you're going to get your hex core upgrades really fast, also allowing you to scale up a lot faster. So our jungler had a lot of problems with his internet this game, and that tilted our bot lane. But it doesn't really matter though, as long as you manage to stay up in farm, you get your core items, you can still carry these games. Because we are pretty fed this game, right? And we can also, we almost have the second core item. So you can go for the Sheen, but I don't really like to get that this early on. I prefer to have the ability power and ability haste as well, and then once we upgrade to Lich Bane, then we have it. The way that you play Viktor in teamfights, guys, you can be flanking. It's really risky to do so, but if you have good vision control, then you can be flanking, because if you find a squishy target, you can just one-shot them. But normally you want to stay with the backline and you try to poke people with your E. Before your teammates really commit to that fight, you want to try to poke them down with your E, because it has pretty good range, and the missile speed is also really insane. So if you aim it properly, then it's almost impossible to dodge it. So AD carry had an insane moment right here. We're just staying in the side lane. This is the key. If you really struggle getting those high CS numbers per minute, then this is what you have to do. You have to go to the side lane. Now you don't want to AFK in the side lanes because your teammate might get caught. They're probably going to get caught. That's going to happen every single game almost. But just want to make sure that you're shoving in the side lane wave while picking it up, and then it's going to bounce back. So after you shove it in, then you can group with your teammates, and then once that wave bounces back, then you can go to the side lane again. You just want to repeat this over and over, and this is pretty much how you stay up in CS. Now you actually have insane mobility with your Q, even though we don't have phase rush. That is one of my favorite keystones. It used to be before they nerfed it. But that Q alone actually gives us a lot of bonus movement speed, so it's important that you abuse this to kite people, especially those melee champs. If you use it properly, then you never have to be within melee range. And now we got the Lich Bane here, so it's actually a pretty good item since they buffed it. This item already had great synergy with Viktor, but it was kind of weak before. Now it's really good after the buff, so it's something that you can build again. And it's really good against those squishy teams. It's good against squishy teams, and it's also really good against those melee heavy teams, because that means that you'll be able to auto attack a lot. That is not going to be the case against a artillery team where they have some champions with really long range abilities. Like a Serath, Vel'Koz, Six and so on, because you won't be able to auto attack them most of the time. So in those cases you can try to build a lot more poke, but in this game then Lich Bane is really good. So this is a big power spike when you have the 3 hex core upgrades, and then you also have the 2 core items. That could be your mythic item, and then you can get something like a Sonya's Hourglass if you're playing against AD assassins. Lich Bane for insane damage output. You have a lot of options, honestly. You can also just go straight for Rapidness Death Cap. That's going to allow you to scale up really fast and also give you insane AP numbers. Remember that you are the main wave clear of your team, guys, so you want to stay grouped as much as possible in the later stages. If you do have teleport, then you can allow yourself to be in the side lane a lot more frequently, but if you don't, then it's very risky to be split pushing, so try to stay grouped so you can help out your teammates. Because your one ability is going to allow you to clear out the wave instantly, while the enemy champions has to spend a lot more time trying to clear out the wave, so you can give your team prio, but just by grouping with them and helping them clear out the waves really fast. And you know, prio is such an important thing in League because if you have it, you can do so much stuff. Like you can get vision control around the big objectives like the Baron, the Elder Drake. And when you have vision control, then you'll be pressuring the opponent, you know, like forcing them to face check, and then you can get a lot of free kills through that, and then you can also take down the objective. So really prioritize getting that prio in the mid lane. So right here we're going for the Quicksilver. That's not something you want to do like 9 out of 10 games. You only do that when they have some really annoying CC abilities, suppression abilities. So in this case that is the Malzah's ultimate, because if he flashes and uses his ultimate on top of me, then I'm dead. So this is to make sure that I stay alive. You can also go for something like a Banshee's Wail, but that is not as reliant because people can always bait out the shield and then you don't have anything left, right? So QSS is something you want to buy when they have something like a Malzah on the enemy team, because it is the only like item active that gets rid of suppression abilities. So that's something like a Malzah ultimate, Skarner ultimate, and so on. And even Mordekaiser's ultimate as well. So as you can see, even though I don't have teleport, I'm still spending a lot of time in the side lane. It is risky to do so, but this is also the reason that I have really high CS numbers. So this is how you stay up in CS as a mid laner, because you want to rotate with your bot lane, you want to let them mid, so if you keep going mid as well, then you will not be able to stay up in farm. Remember, you can really kite people, just make sure that you're using abilities in rapid succession and really use that Q to kite people, use that bonus movement speed. We got a really easy kill on the Yeager right there because he did not respect our damage output. Even though we fell a little bit behind the damage curve because we had to get the QSS, we are still sitting on a pretty big power spike, right? So if a squishy target walks up like that, you can easily one-shot them. Do not be scared of forcing a fight. So before a team fight starts, try to like poke them a lot with that E, guys. If you hit multiple champs, then of course that's a lot better. You can also be the one flanking, but only do that if you have vision control and you can make sure that you're going to get out alive. But you want to go for those poking first, and then also try to use your abilities to zone people away from the objectives. So your W covers a pretty big field, so you can like place it in the entrance to the objectives, and then you can kind of zone people away. And then when you see them walking up, just try to poke them with E over and over. Try to get that extra poke damage in before the fight actually starts, because that way you will be at an advantage. Normally you do want to go for a squishy target because you'll be able to clear them out really fast. You can see how much burst damage we had on this Ezreal right here. The reason I waited using my ultimate is because I thought that he was going to E a lot faster. So I wanted to bait it out first, but he was pretty slow reacting, or it was on cooldown. But that's pretty much how you want to play Viktor. Chill out in the early game, but with this page though you can afford to play aggressive, but still prioritize farming well, get your core items and then also get the Hex core upgrades. As soon as you have the 3 upgrades and you have your core items, that's why you can start carrying. And that's also what you want to play around. So this was how to play Viktor. I of course hope this was helpful. As always, thanks for watching guys, and see y'all in the next one.